Can we know who we are? Is it possible to understand ourselves completely? I spent many hours on this question, and what I came up with might not be reassuring to many of you at first glance. It certainly worried me a bit. Why? Because I don't think anyone ever can truly know who they really are. Since I said in the previous video, it is crucial to understand our personality, that gets us into a bit of a pickle because apparently we need some information which we cannot have. How about that? Great, right? Not to worry, though, it'll be fine, and here's why. The reason I said we cannot know precisely who we are is because every given time in our life there are a limitless amount of personalities we have the potential to become. So you see, I believe it's not only possible for people to change, but for anything not to change is rather out of the question. In fact, I think in the material world, physical reality, our dimension, our plane, our universe of existence, whatever you want to call it, not changing is categorically impossible. Now let's unpack this paragraph. So there are a limitless amount of personalities we have the potential to become at any given time in our life. The potential comes from life itself. As we go about our little existence, situations pop up one after another. Decisions we have to make, actions we have to take. For example, we're walking down street after a rainy day and there is a puddle coming up in our path. Now we have the potential to become the person who walks around the puddle, the person who jumps over the puddle, the person who puts something like a sturdy plank across the puddle and walks over that, the person who walks right through the puddle, the person who jumps into the puddle, the person who turns around, the person who just stands by waiting until the puddle dries up, and so on and so forth. Every single one of those potential actions will result in a different personality since our actions define who we are. And that is why we cannot know precisely who we are, because it is impossible to know every action we're about to take throughout our entire life. That is a good thing, though. Uncertainty is potential by another name. Uncertainty is the dimension where every possibility, an infinite number of possibilities exist before we create them into reality with our actions. Why is it categorically impossible not to change them? Because our dimension, our reality is never static. According to our current understanding, everything moves. In our perception of reality, time moves and we have a finite amount of time left in our bodies. In other words, we live, then after some time passes, we die. If that statement is true, that already means change is inevitable. Why? Because if we have a certain amount of time to live and time constantly moves in one direction in our reality, then with every second passing, we have less of that time. Having less life is a pretty significant change, wouldn't you agree? I know what some of you might be thinking right now. That's dark, man, and thanks for pointing out with that. I'm feeling much better now, much appreciated. While you could feel negative about what I just said, I rather think of it as important. Important because it illustrates the importance of every action, every decision, and every thought, because that is the process of creative life. We think thoughts, we decide on those thoughts, and finally we act on those decisions. If our actions define who we are, and our thoughts are the first conscious steps towards our actions, then our thoughts are the precursors of our personality. This means our thoughts define our life. And if you are not happy to change your life, to change who you are, you must take conscious control of your thoughts. Only one thing left: to know how.